I'm officially starting it. I just feel like it can't be good, you know? I don't know. I'm stressed. And we haven't even gotten into like the meat of the story yet. But I'm not even that far in and I'm like emotionally invested already. Maybe. The theories. There are so many theories. Ah! Okay. Hi everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a brand new vlog series. So, this is yet another vlog series. I'm really good at starting them, you guys. But I'm kind of proud of this one. I have been toying with this one for a while, or something similar to the effect of this, which is basically that I want to read some hyped books, or some books that like, there's been like a list of books kind of running through my head of like, oh, I wonder if that would be a series for me, or if that would be a book for me, but it's really, really hyped and people are talking a lot about it, and just something that was along the lines of a hyped book or a series. But I didn't want to do it in my Simplify My series because most of these I haven't even started yet if they are a series. So I decided to start a brand new vlog series, which is, as you can tell by the title, the Hyped Books Chronicles, I think is what I've decided. And basically what that means is each episode is going to be different. Some of them will have one book, some of them will have an entire series that I'm reading. Nothing too long. I don't think I want to do anything more than like 4 books in a video. So anything under 4 books in a series, but reading the entirety of the series and kind of giving you my thoughts. And they are hyped books. Like there's definitely some series on here that I haven't even touched, but I've had the inklings towards recently or for whatever reason. So I thought, let's do our first installment with a series that I have been meaning to start forever. So this one was going to be one of those videos where I only did one book, but based on the nature of the series, I decided to do 2. And that is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Yes, guys, I'm officially starting it. So this is a 7-book series, I believe, total. I own the first, 3, and then the the prequel that has a bunch of short stories in it. So the first 3 to 4 books in the series. And I made it a goal that I was going to start this series this year. I know that this is a lot of people's favorites. I just never got on the bandwagon when it came to Sarah J. Maas until Crescent City, and then I did get on the ACOTAR bandwagon, you guys know. And so this is an author that I love. I know this is going to be a YA series, so it's going to be not to the same level that I'm used to with her other stuff, but I want to give it a chance. So I thought this would be great. This is a super hyped book. I might as well start the series with one that I'm really excited about. But I've been told that I need to read The Assassin's Blade first, which is a collection of 5 short stories. So I've been told that while this came out after Throne of Glass, I need to read it first because it gives me some backstory on our main character, who is Selena. So I've decided to make this into a 2-book vlog instead of just reading the first one. Now, because these are super hyped books and because they've been out for a while and everyone loves them, that's the theory for this series, is that these are going to be spoilery thoughts. So I will do like beginning thoughts before I get into the individual stories. Maybe I'll do a few moments of unspoilery thoughts so that if you don't want to know anything else, I won't tell you those, but that's the plan. So I wanted to come on here and kind of start this because I'm hoping to get to this one. I probably won't get to it until next week, but the plan is to dive into these next week and really go hard. So I thought I would go ahead and just kind of explain to you my thoughts before I actually dive in. So that's the plan. I'm going to start this one and I'll let you know how it goes. Hello. I'm here because I have updates for you. Not too many, but I did finish the very first short story in The Assassin's Blade, and I wanted to give you some of my thoughts. I'm thinking about checking in through after every short story, at least in this book, and then when we get to Throne of Glass, I'll check in a lot more if lots of things have changed. So the first story in this book is called The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. And this one was very interesting because it gave us a very clear picture of Selena. Sardathian. Selena is how you say her name. I think I was calling her Selena at one point. But we get a very clear picture of who she is. She is sassy. She gives 0 Fs what anyone thinks about her. She reminds me a lot of, I mean, all of Sarah J. Maas's main female leads are like super strong-willed and takes no shit and stuff like that. But she gives me very clear similarities to Bryce, who is the main female lead in the Crescent City series. So if you like that character, from the one chapter or one thing that I've got, which is a whole 40 or 75 pages long, I'm seeing similarities in like the badassness of these characters and the sassiness of it. Now Bryce uses more of like her sexual appeal, whereas at least so far Selena doesn't. She wears a mask and a cape, so no one actually knows what she looks like because she is 16 years old. She's super young, and so no one will take her seriously as this like super great assassin. And B, no one knows what she looks like, so that she can actually like do some of the spy missions and infiltrate some of the courts and do things like that. So there's like a reason why no one knows her. But in this short story, she and one of the other assassins, there's this assassin's, I can't remember what it's called. Hold on. I can't remember if they have like an actual name. But there's this guy called the King of the Assassins, who is one of her mentors. She's his official heir. So whenever he passes away, she'll take over like the head of this assassin council, I guess is the best way I can describe it. There's like 5 of them there. And in the first story, it's her and another guy on this assassins. I've said assassins so many times in this just clip alone. And this other guy on this council, his name is Sam. And they do not get along. And so they have both been sent by the King of the Assassins. His name, I can never pronounce. Arobin, I think is how you say it. He sends them to this pirate island. They go there thinking that a bunch of their assassins that they have worked with in the past have like ended up dead, and they think it's this guy, and so they are sent there basically to collect money as like retribution, if kind of in a sense of like, you killed our people, we're gonna make you pay us for it. And actually why they're sent there is because there's a slave trade going on, and they are sent there to set up some stuff for their like king guy. And Selena does not like this. And Sam's got some history with brothels and the slave trade and himself. And so there's some kids that are involved in the slave trade. It all has to do with like this super corrupt empire, which I don't quite grasp yet. I feel like I'm getting bits and pieces of it, and I will throughout this book, but once we get thrown a glass, I'll maybe be able to grasp it a little bit more. But there's like this big bad government ruling party, and they use people who have opposed them as slaves. And so it's not like Selena is not a fan of this. And so the first story is basically her trying to like free these slaves. And so she and the pirate king, pirate lord, whatever he is, did not get along very well. But she also doesn't get along with a lot of people. She kind of rubs everyone the wrong way. And she could care less. But the thing is, the funny thing about this is that she is super cocky and, like I said, super badass and like rubs people the wrong way, but she has the skills to back it up. So it's not just like she's being a jerk for the sake of being a jerk. It's like she's being a jerk and then she'll kill you and you'll be like, oh crap, actually she was telling the truth. And so it's a very interesting dynamic. So I'm loving it so far. I love her as a main character. I think she is so fascinating. And I love her could care less attitude. So I'm interested to see how that continues. The next story is called The Assassin and the Healer. So Joe know what that one's about. This one's actually quite short. This one is only, how many? I'm trying to look. It's got 6 chapters in it. So I think it's less than 50 pages. So I'll probably finish that one relatively quickly. So I'll come back to you when I've read that one. I'm not sure I'll have a whole lot of thoughts on that one just because it's so short. But I just wanted to tell you my initial thoughts on her. as a character, and I like Sam. I don't know if he's going to be important. He's a name mentioned on the back of this, so I feel like he's going to be important in the rest of these stories. I don't know if he's going to be important in Throne of Glass yet, but or in like the actual series, but he's at least an important character in this series, and I'm very interested to see where we go and what other things we learn from her. I am liking this. Is a very fascinating introduction to her as a character, so I think once we get to Throne of Glass, I'll have a pretty clear picture of who she is. So I am enjoying the fact that I started with this one. I'm only 70 pages in and I'm already like hooked. So it is driving me nuts, so it's on my head so it doesn't pull on my neckline. Hello. I am here because I've actually read a couple of short stories. My plan, like I mentioned, was to come to you every short story that I had read. But like I mentioned in the last clip, the next one was The Assassin and the Healer, and it was so short that there wasn't a whole lot. Like, I'll still talk about it, but there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. So I decided just to go ahead and read the next one. What I'm discovering is that they all blend together in the sense of like, well, it's like one continual story is basically what it feels like. Like, they're all short stories, and when you start a new one, there is a little bit of, I wouldn't say world building, but like you are introduced to characters again, which you wouldn't be in a continual story. But it's like the second short story happened right after the first one, and the third one happens right after the second one. So it's like a continual arc for her. So the next one, like I said, was The Assassin and the Healer. It was super short. It takes place in this tavern, basically, after the events of the pirate story, the very first one. She has, it doesn't show us this, but she has come back to her assassin king guy, and he basically like beats her up for messing with his money, and then sends her as punishment to go to this desert. And there's supposed to be something in the desert. I don't think we know what it is by the second book. The third story in here, we obviously know what it is, but by the second one we don't know what it is. So she basically has been traveling to this desert, and so we get to this point where she's at a tavern. She gets the attention of this barmaid whose name I have forgotten, but she's a healer. Or so basically, from what I can gather, in this world there were fae in this world, and when they left they took the magic with them, if I'm understanding correctly. And so because of that, there's no magic, and healers used to have magic. So this girl's mother and grandmother were both healers, and so she's a healer because of that. Now, in the current climate of this world, it's just a normal, like what you would think of as like a healer with no magic, you know, like just taking care of people, first aid, things like that. But her name is Irene, I think. It's Yrene. I can't remember how they pronounced it in the audiobook, but so she's a healer. And so she basically gets cornered in the alleyway after a shift one night, and there's a bunch of guys who, you can imagine, want some stuff from her that she's not willing to give, and Selena comes and saves her. And so basically what happens is Selena decides, you know what, you need some help, let me train you a little bit. And so she takes a couple of hours overnight to train this girl, and then leaves the next morning. And in the process of being trained, she leaves this little like bag of coins. Well, she finds out that this girl really wants to go to this healer like school, and doesn't have the money to do it. She was on the way to this school, but ended up stopping in the town where they currently are because she's run out of money. So she started working at this inn to raise money so that she can continue on her way, but she doesn't make enough to really do it. Like, it doesn't make any dent, and so she's kind of stuck where she's at. And so Selena comes in and kind of like steals from these guys who had attacked her and left her a bunch of money, as well as a really nice brooch that she was wearing. And so now this girl has the ability to go to this college she wants to go to. And that's the story. It's literally them. It takes place during one night. It's just her teaching this girl how to fight and saving her life and leaving her money so that she can do what she wants to do. But it's like you see her on this journey, Selena, you see her on this journey to where she's going. So that's what happens with that one. I really liked the story of the barmaid, Irene. She's like super, super afraid and is like stuck in her ways, and she kind of needs that nudge to go and do the thing that she's been wanting to do, and Selena is that nudge. So I'm curious, because we're meeting all these different people and all these different stories, if any of them are going to come back in the Throne of Glass series, like just as a throwaway, because I have questions. I have a lot of questions, and I'm curious how that's like. Is this just a one-off to show us what Selena is like, or are people going to become people later on? I don't know, but she's really cool, and if she came back, I wouldn't mind. But there wasn't a whole lot to that one. It was really, really short, but it was a cool character to meet. And the next one was the Assassin in the Desert, and this is when we get to Selena has gone to the desert, where she has been sent by her king, the Assassin King, as punishment, like I mentioned. And basically, it's this mute monk kind of person who is running a school for assassins, and he's supposed to be like the best of the best, and so she has been sent to spend 1 month there, and at the end of the month she's supposed to get a letter from this guy that says, yep, she's trained, she's good to go, and come back. And if she doesn't get that within the time frame, or doesn't get it at all, then bad things are going to happen. But in this story, you see her show up at this school, you see the mute guy, the master, accept her into the school, and she becomes friends with this woman who ends up being her, Ansel is her name, ends up being her roommate. And so Ansel is like supposed to be like really, really good. She wears her own suit of armor, but she has yet to train one-on-one with the master. The master decides who gets to train one-on-one with him, and you kind of have to prove yourself a little bit in your daily activities in order for him to take note of you. And so that's what Selena's trying to do. She's just trying to find things that she can do to get his attention. And then you've got some stuff with Ansel, because she has a whole backstory about her father, who was killed by this king, and she used to be the ruler, or he used to be the ruler of this land, and now it's this big bad guy. And so she escaped in the hopes of getting better so that she can go back and kill this guy, when in actuality, yes, that's still her motives, but like by the end of this story, she betrays everyone. She teams up with this guy from the closest city to the desert. He is like not a fan of assassins. He wants the assassins to go. And so she teams up with him and agrees to help him infiltrate the keep where the assassins are. And if she brings him back the head of the master, then he'll give her the troops that she needs to go back to her homeland and win it back. And so she's got a lot of, I wouldn't say like her motives are bad in the sense of like she still wants retribution for the death of her entire family, but she goes about it the wrong way, because she tries to kill the guy that was there for her. And so Selena is kind of caught in the crossfires and tries to figure out what is the best thing to do, because this monk, I keep calling him the monk, but he's like, I think he's just called the Mute Master is what his actual name is. But he is basically like super sweet and like treats everybody differently. Like when she does something, like she goes off and steals some horses with Ansel, and it's all part of Ansel's big overarching plot, but Selena doesn't know that. And so Selena takes the front of the blame for it. And so then the master comes up and like lifts her chin in a way of like trying to make her look at him, so she'll tell him what happened. And she like flinches, because when her master does that, he's just going to beat her up. And so she has a very different opinion of masters. And so he is treating all of them with respect, and it's very different for her. And so by the end of the story, she basically like gets the letter she needs from him in the right amount of time that she needs. She is told that if she ever wants to come back, she has a place there with them, and that, you know, she's kind of become a little disillusioned with this guy, the guy that was her master. He was like her everything for a long time, until the slave trade story, the very first story in this book. And so she has become very disillusioned with him as a person and looks at him very differently now. And so we see that she has got her own apartment, and so maybe she's going to start living there when she goes back. And so it's like this master in the desert is giving her the courage she needs to kind of stand up for herself. So we get a lot. I feel like this is going to be a really important backstory for her once we get to the actual Throne of Glass series, just with the this whole like overarching relationship with her and her I keep calling him master, but like that's basically what he is. He's the like assassins, head of the assassins, king of the assassins. So that's kind of where we're at. I really enjoyed that one. That one is probably my favorite so far out of the 3 that I've read. I expect this book, because they're short stories, it's very interesting because they're all different. And usually what I would do is I would take each story individually and kind of like rate them and think about them as individuals, but because they're all part of her story and her backstory and one bleeds into the other, it's kind of hard to separate them, and I feel like I get why they're all in one book. So far so good. I'm thinking this one's probably going to be a 4-star by the time I get to the end, but we have 2 more short stories left and we're only about halfway through this book, so I think the next one is going to be, I'm looking at it and I think it's the longest one in here. I'm not 100% sure. It is, sorry, I'm trying to look at the page numbers. It's at least 100 pages, a little bit more than 100 pages, and it's called The Assassin and the Underworld. And they only have one more after that, and that one's not as short as The Healer, but it's on the shorter side. So I'm interested to see what the next one's going to be about, just because what is this Underworld? Where are we going now? Like, the plot that we have set up in the first 3 volumes, I feel like we've come to a conclusion a little bit, so I'm interested to see where we go from here. But I am very interested so far. I really am enjoying getting her backstory. I feel like I am connected to her as a person, so I get why people tell you to read this one first, because you really get to see her as a person. And I think when I go into Throne of Glass, I'll have a fully fledged person in my brain, and then I can focus on the plot of the first one, which I still am not 100% sure what it is yet, but that's my plan. I'll come back to you when I have finished the next short story in here, and I'll tell you my thoughts on that one. Hello. It's a little bit later, and by a little bit I mean it's a lot later. It's what, like 9 something, 9:30 at night. But I finished the next short story, so I thought I'd come tell you kind of my thoughts. I'm thinking, depending on how long the last one is, I might finish it late tonight, but I'll come to you tomorrow when I finish that one. But this one, like I mentioned earlier, was The Assassin and the Underworld. And I don't know why, but I was envisioning like mermaids and stuff, but it has nothing to do with that. It's like the underbelly of the city. So Selena comes back to the city. She comes back to the assassin king that she has been, like her master that she's been running from, not running from, but like has basically been the bane of her existence since the beginning of this short story collection. So she shows up and he is all remorseful for how he treated her and all of that kinds of stuff, and basically gives her a new assignment. And the assignment is, there's a guy who's got all these names and safe houses and everything that people who oppose the slave trade, like it's like a list of their names, and he's supposed to be this really big bad guy, and his wife or ex-wife, they might still be together technically, but like they don't live together, they don't, like, it was not a good marriage, and so they're not like together, but they might not be like divorced or anything. But she is trying to save these people and this list of names, in the hopes that they don't get into the wrong hands. And so her job, Selena's job, is basically to figure out where this list of these documents are. There's a trade going down. Stop the trade, get the documents, and kill both this guy and the guy, or the person that he is trading with. And so over the course of this short story, she meets back up with Sam, and they have some moments together where they both have realized feelings for the other one, and it has, like hers, you can kind of see it showing up a little bit throughout all of the previous stories. At the beginning of the very first story, they hate each other, or it seems like they hate each other, but you can see in Selena's head as the next couple of stories happen, she's like thinking more fondly of him. And so the two of them kind of struggle at first because she doesn't know how to be a person with him. She doesn't know how to do anything but bicker with him. And so you see the two of them kind of figuring things out, but he agrees to help her with this mission. And so the two of them basically scope out this house. And what ends up happening is the two of them fall for each other. He admits that he's loved her forever, and the Assassin King has been using that against him. She discovers that he is pulling strings, the Assassin King is pulling strings, so she came back from the desert with like 3 different trunks of gold that the Mute Master gave her to buy her freedom. And so that's what she does. She buys her freedom from her master. And so she doesn't tell him that she's moving out yet, but she tells him that like, I'm still want to, work with you and work for you, but I'm done being your pawn. And he's like, fair enough. And so then she goes on this final mission. She ends up going to this house, finding the documents, but there's no trade agreements in them. It's just a list of names and a list of safe houses. And she ends up killing this guy and the one that he is meeting with. She completed the job. She gave the paperwork to the Assassin King, and he meets with him the next morning. So the last chapter in this section is her meeting with the Assassin King the next day, and he basically telling her that like she ended up doing the opposite of what she thought she was doing. It's the wife who's actually going to use these names and basically try to find all these people and convince them to stay with the slave trade, or she's going to give their names to the king. And it was the guy that she killed who was actually on the side of saving these slaves and stopping the slave trade. And so she's so mad at this that she has gone out and she got a horse in the previous story. And so she sells this horse, which is a really good horse, to buy Sam's freedom. She officially moves out. She kind of like tells this guy that he is the worst possible person that she could possibly imagine, this Assassin King. And she officially moves out into her own apartment that she's had for a few weeks at least. No, since the beginning of the summer, because the desert story takes place over the course of the summer. And so she moves out, she's bought Sam's freedom, and Sam moves in with her. And that's how the story ends. So now I can say that this one's my favorite so far in this collection. I really like seeing her back in the city. I like seeing her doing what she's supposed to be doing. I like seeing her and Sam's like bickering and their relationship. I don't have a lot of hope for it just based on how I know Sarah J. Maas is. I don't have a lot of hope for it being a long-term thing, but it's really nice to see her with someone. And I am worried. I'm genuinely worried for Sam's safety in the next story. So the next one is called The Assassin in the Empire. It's the last one, so I'll probably finish that tonight and or tomorrow. And it's going to set up, I think, the Throne of Glass story really well, so I can jump straight into the actual first book in the series. But like, I'm genuinely terrified just because there are names that I have heard over and over again. Same thing that happened when I was going into ACOTAR. There are names that I know, but I don't know why I know them. I don't know why they're important. I don't know who's endgame for her, whereas with ACOTAR I went in kind of knowing who endgame was. I have an idea just based on some of the reels and things that I've seen online over the years, but I'm not 100% sure yet on that. And Sam is not a name that has popped up, so I'm genuinely worried that something's going to happen to him in the next short story, because she can't be happy. Why would it wouldn't work for her to have a happy ending. I know these are prequels, but like, come on. That's where I'm at. I am emotionally invested already in these characters, and I'm genuinely worried about where it's going to go in the next story. So I'll come back to you when I have officially finished this collection before I start Throne of Glass, but I wanted to tell you my thoughts because I just finished that short story section, and I am terrified of what is to come, because I don't know, I just feel like it can't be good. I don't know. I'm stressed. And we haven't even gotten into like the meat of the story yet. I've done it. I finished the Assassin's Blade, the very last short story in this collection, and my fears were realized. So basically, in this last one, which was called The Assassin in the Empire, I believe, yes, it's relatively shorter, but it follows Sam and Selena as they basically live on their own. They've, based on like what happened at the end of the last one, they kind of like left the Assassin's Guild. I mean, they didn't, in the sense of like, it's kind of like a membership thing, so they're still members of this guild, but they're not like living there anymore. They paid off their debt, so they don't have to live there. So they move out, and in this book, they are just kind of like trying to figure out what to do. They need money, but they are also trying to figure out kind of like they can't get any work because the king of the assassins is not letting anyone, or kind of like spreading the word and basically like not letting anyone hire them, basically. So what ends up happening is they go to him and basically say, let us out of the guild, I'll pay you whatever. He asks for a ridiculous amount of money, so she pays it, and they plan to leave the city. But in order to do that, they need one last job, and so they get hired to kill off these two people who were like super high up. Like even the Assassin's Guild does not go after these people. One of them is like, I want to say he's like, I didn't quite get what he did, but I think he like runs maybe the underbelly of the city a little bit, and that it's his right-hand man who is like this torturer and awful person. And so they basically decide each one of them is going to get one of them. So one's going to go after the main guy, one of them's going to go after the torturer guy. And so Sam goes after the torture guy and then doesn't come back, and Selena is kind of freaking out, and then discovers that Sam has been killed by him, and she goes into like a fit of rage and basically like goes to this house to kill them for killing Sam. And it's all a setup, and she basically gets shipped off to the king. She kills the head guy of the underworld, and the torture guy, I'm using this because I can't remember their names, ends up taking over as his, like, as the head of this section, I guess. And it's all set up so that she would kill him, and then he'll give her over to the king, and the king will not make a fuss as he becomes the new head of their like crime syndicate. And so the end of the book ends with her being shipped off to this place, if I can remember how it's called, let's see, this place called, it's the salt mines of Andover, and like it's apparently supposed to be like the worst possible thing you could ever do. She assumes the king is going to kill her, and the king is like, oh no, that would be too easy, that would be what you want, I'm going to send you to work in the salt mines instead. And that's apparently like, it's been mentioned a few times throughout this book, but it's apparently like the worst possible thing that could happen. So she ends the book arriving at the salt mines, about to step in, and kind of like has a new look on life, and is like, I am Selena Sardathian, and I am not afraid, I can do this. And that's how this ends, which, now that I've finished this, I've read the back of Throne of Glass, and it perfectly sets this up, because I'm assuming that's where we start, where she is, because I'm sure we'll get more as we continue reading, but based on the back of the book, she is summoned by the king to take part in this competition to become the king's champion. And so she has to fight and defeat 23 other murderers, thieves, and warriors in this competition. And so he has brought her to do that. And so then it says something about the crown prince will provoke her, the captain of the guard will protect her. So she's got two people there. So we've got a little bit of a love triangle situation going on. I don't know which one's which. Like I said earlier in this video, I have names that I know are part of this series, but I'm not sure who's who, so that'll be fun. And then it also says that there's a princess from a faraway country that will befriend her. So there's already setting up like the core group of this, I'm assuming it's going to be the core group of this story, but then also like her competitors start dying mysteriously, and I think she starts to try to like figure out what's going on, like kind of solve the mystery, if you will. So I'm very interested. The plot sounds very fascinating. I like that we had a lot of backstory in this collection. I ended up giving this collection 4.5 stars. Because it felt like a fully fledged story, it was easier to, I think, rate in my head, and I really enjoyed my time with it. So we did it. We finished the Assassin's Blade, and now we can officially start the Throne of Glass world. I'm a little terrified, I'm not gonna lie, because after this book, I only have 2 more, and I have a feeling, a very suspicious feeling, that I might want to binge this, which I can't do. I have so many other things that I need to be doing. So we're going to give this a shot. It's not super long. The audiobook at my speed is about 7 hours. I think it's actually like 13 hours long. It's only about, it's not even quite, it is just over 400 pages, so it's real short. So I'm excited to see the world that she creates in here. I know that I've been told that you have to get through the first 4 books, I think, and that's when the plot really kicks into gear. So I'm interested to see where we're going to start and where we're going to end with the story. I have many questions. It's about a corrupt government. She hates the king, all that fun stuff. So I'm excited to see the original, where Celaena started. Now that I have a good understanding of her, I feel like this is a good way to go into the story, because now I understand her as a person, and I'll spend my time focused on the plot of the story as well as some of the other characters that we're meeting along the way. So I'll either come to you halfway through, or I'll come to you when things happen and tell you my thoughts on them, but we're doing it. We finished the first part, so now we're officially starting Throne of Glass today. I'm excited. I'll let you know my thoughts as we dive into this story. It's finally happening. Hello, hi. It is the next day, and I have reached about, I think, halfway. I'm on chapter 30, so I think that's about halfway. And I cannot stop reading it. It's a problem. Like, I've already figured out that I'm going to probably binge this series because I have no chill. And by binge, I mean, like, not actually binge, but like pepper in books from the series over the course of the next couple of months, just because I'm obsessed with it. And even the size of the later books in the series don't scare me as much anymore. It's the first book. I know things are going to change. Things are going to happen. And I am invested already. So, things that I'm finding interesting. 1, all of the short stories that we have read in the previous book are mentioned, except for one so far, I think is technically not mentioned in the course of this book. So it's very fascinating to go in, because I know that this book was written first. This book was written, maybe the first 2 books were written before the short stories were written. Now I know that probably Sarah J. Maas had them in the back of her head and had a whole backstory for Celaena that, like, she knew that we didn't, so it probably works just fine. But I'm so curious about people who, like, read this for the first time and didn't have the backstory in their brain, because, like, she's mentioned Sam, like, offhandedly a few times, and I mean, it makes sense. He's kind of was her first love. He was the one that, like, stuff that went down with him is kind of why she ended up in the salt mines and all that kind of stuff. So it makes sense that he would be brought up, but the fact that he's brought up, but there's so little talked about with him, I am so interested to see what other people thought when things like that were mentioned. Or like Ansel in the Red Desert and how she was betrayed by her is mentioned very, like, it's just a throwaway line that probably no one would have thought of, but it gives Celaena a backstory. And I don't need it more than a throwaway because I know the actual story. So it's just really fascinating that all these short stories, I wasn't sure if they were going to play a big part in her story or if we're going to see more from them in the future or what. But, like, I assumed that, like, a backstory is fascinating, but, like, you don't get a whole lot of it in the, like, meat of the text. But what's what we're doing? We're getting, she is mentioning very offhandedly all these things that are happening, which is fascinating to me. So, like I mentioned, I'm halfway through. We have come to the point where she's gone to the castle. She started training. She started doing the trials. There's going to be, they said 13 weeks of trials. And then the very last trial is the last 4 champions remaining. And she is the only female champion. The rest of them are dudes. So already not a fan of that. But she has been asked to take on a different persona. She goes by Lillian because no one needs to know that she is Celaena Sardathian, because even when she was captured and sent to the salt mines, the king, the dad, didn't want people to know that this big bad assassin was a 16-year-old girl. And so at this point she's 18. I think she was almost 17 by the end of all of the she had just turned 17 in the short stories. I forgot what I was trying to say. The short stories. So at this point, when she starts the story, she is, I believe, 18, and she's been in the salt mines for a year before the story started. The king didn't want people to know that Celaena Sardathian was this super young girl, so he didn't tell anyone that she was captured. He kind of like let the spirit of her name and her reputation just kind of keep going, and like didn't say anything. So no one in this competition is supposed to know that she is who she is. The king knows, obviously, the prince knows, and then the royal guard knows, and then like her lady's maid who comes in and like helps her get clothed and all that kind of stuff knows who she is, but otherwise people aren't supposed to know who she is. And so we've come to a point where she has been asked this whole time to basically like limit what she's doing. So like the first trial was archery, and so she purposefully does not great. Like she could hit all 5 bullseyes in the middle and win the whole freaking thing, but she is asked to kind of limit her ability so that when she comes out at the end, it's a big surprise, and so like no one knows what's coming. And so she's been asked to do this, and she's been doing it pretty well. And then there's this big bad other competitor named Cain, who I just kind of envision as like a Viking. He's like this really big guy, and he knows who she is. He just kind of like told us a few chapters ago that he and his right-hand man, or another competitor that like has an allegiance with him, I don't know who she is. And so she just had this sparring match with the right-hand man guy, because they've just been like taunting her. And so she finally is like, screw it. And so it was one of the most badass scenes so far. Like literally they go into the little like sparring arena, and the point is to push you out of bounds, I think is what it is. And so this guy comes at her with a sword, and she doesn't even like draw. She has her knives still on her. She doesn't draw anything. And she like kicks him out in 3 moves and shuts everyone up, except for Cain. Cain's still an asshole. But you've got that. Then you have these murders that are going down, because there have been 3 competitors that have died in very brutal manners. What I'm discovering is that I have trust issues when it comes to Sarah J. Maas, because she's hurt me in the past, and I'm afraid to trust anybody. So like she has another competitor named Nox that she's become really close with, and like they've been helping each other out. And I do not hold hope that he will survive this book. I think he's going to die at the end of this book, because we've come to like him. So of course Sarah J. Maas is going to hurt us, and he's going to die. That's theory number 1. Number 2, the other person that I am very hesitant about is this princess that she has become friends with named Nemia. I don't really remember how to pronounce it. Nemia, maybe? She is a princess from just a neighboring kingdom who has been sent by her father to learn the language, and she speaks a different language. And this language that is like her native language is one that Celaena actually knows. So they hit it off right away, because Celaena knows this language, and she kind of becomes her translator almost at times. And no one in the court knows this competition is going down, so they don't know that Celaena is there for the competition. They think that she's just kind of like there to be the prince's like newest thing. And she and this princess get along pretty well, and so like they start to become friends, and she kind of is helping this princess learn the language and vice versa. I like this princess, which means A, she's gonna die, or B, she's gonna betray them in some way, and I don't know what it is. I don't trust her. Like, I want to trust her because she's so nice and is there for Celaena and is like Celaena's only friend. But the last time Celaena had a friend was in the desert, and she straight up betrayed her. So this is where I'm at. I'm at the point where I don't trust anything that is happening. I'm only halfway through this book, okay, guys? Things are going to happen. Like, Sarah J. Maas is so good at, like, taking the last, like, 100 pages, 50 to 100 pages of a book, and, like, completely making it unstoppable action, and all these twists and stuff. And, like, I know it's the first in the series, so she probably is going to have somewhat of an ending, like she has with her other 2 series, so that we are satisfied in case the series didn't get picked up, or we don't want to continue with the series, or whatever it is. But still, I'm terrified is what I'm trying to say. So, yes, be prepared for me to continue to read this series a lot for the next few months. This is my new obsession, okay? I don't think it's going to get to the point, now I don't know, we're still really early in the series, so I could eat my words later, but right now, I don't think it's going to be the same level of obsession as ACOTAR and Crescent City is for me. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot more books. There's a lot more characters we haven't even met yet. And I know that. And there's a lot of world things that we haven't even begun to imagine yet. But I don't see it taking on, if we're going the same way that we've been going now, it'll be a great series, and I'll still give it probably most of them 4 or 5 stars, but I don't see it being the obsession that the other two are. But what do I know? You know, I think I ended ACOTAR thinking that it was a good book, and then being obsessed with that series. I just have a lot of thoughts swirling, and as things, I'm sure I'll check in more as things happen. So far, like, not a lot has happened. It's just her, like, training. I mean, a lot has happened. Like, there's a lot of conversations, and there's already starting to be some attraction between her and the prince, as well as the guard. Like, I don't think there's attraction on her side with Kale yet. I think Kale's attracted to her, but he doesn't trust her because she's Selena, and so he has a lot of trust issues when it comes to her, whereas the prince, Dorian, is like, whatever. So I don't know, things are going to happen, I'm sure, but I will continue to update you as things continue. But this is where I'm at right now. Those are my rambling thoughts, and I am stressed. I was right about one thing, and it's the princess is not what she appears. We don't know what's going on with her yet. We just know that she is connected to these markings that are called, like, word marks that are found where all of the bodies have been found. And Selena found some markings under her bed that she got rid of. So we don't know really what these word markings are. She's kind of done some research a little bit, but we don't know. We just know that this princess, A, knows what they are, and B, is not what she appears because she can speak fluently in the common tongue, as they are calling it in this book. That's what Selena speaks, and that's what she has been teaching this princess. But the princess actually can speak fluently. So there's that. Also, she and the prince just kissed, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't think I like it. Like, he's fine. Like, he's a fine dude. Like, you know, he's not what he appears. He's not his dad. So if, you know, something happens to the king and he became king, I think I'd be okay with that. I think he would do better things for this country than what his dad is doing. But I don't know. It's just something about him and her together that I don't think I'm on board for. And I can't pinpoint why that is, but I don't know. I'm in chapter 40 now, so we've got a little bit more to go here. I think I've got just about 100 pages, and this is going to be fun. Okay, bombshell. We've gotten to, I'm literally a chapter since I just talked to you. And she's come across something in a book that she's reading about the word marks, which is the things that they draw on the ground. And basically, the specific word marks that are being used are basically to summon this creature that will kill, and like to sacrifice someone to this creature. And then when you do that, the skills or whatever this person has will go to you. So it's clearly another champion who is killing off all of these champions to get their skill so that they can win. I think it's Nox. And the reason I think that is because he is the least likely option. I think it's him because we're supposed to like him. And I think all of the signs are pointing to Cain because he's the worst one. He's the worst guy. He's the best champion. He's got all of these people behind him that want him to win. So I think he's a red herring. And I think it's someone, maybe not Nox, but someone like Nox, who is not as, like, is more quiet, okay? I don't know. But then what if it's not a champion? Okay, it would make sense for it to be a champion because they would be getting all these powers so they could win the thing. But if it's not a champion, who would it be? And why would someone who's not a champion want all that power? Is it the Duke? Is it the Duke that has Cain as his champion? Maybe. The theories. There are so many theories. Okay, I'm going back now. Okay, now she found Cain just in a random, like throne room, not throne room, but like room under the castle. There's all of these secret hideaway passageways that she found, and she's found Cain there, kind of like mumbling to himself and like moving his fingers across the floor with his own blood, and things lighting up from the floor. So it was Cain, but there's too much of this book left for me to believe that that is actually accurate. I don't trust it. I'm telling you, she's giving me trust issues just in general. Hello, I hope you can hear me okay. I don't have my microphone with me. As you can see, I'm not currently at home. We are out of town this weekend. I have some free time today, so I think I'm gonna come in and out a little bit, but I am so close to the end. So I have a suspicious feeling I'm gonna finish this book today. I've got 10 chapters left. I have maybe a little over 50 pages left in this book, and things are about to happen, but some major things that happened since I talked to you last. One, I was wrong about Cain. I think I've already come on and told you that. It was him. He's bad. He's the one who's in charge of, or he's like the one who like took this creepy, I don't even know what they call it, but this monster thing. And so she stumbles across him, and he's like summoning him, and he turns around and I was like, well, you're not the one I planned for tonight, but here we are. And so he like sets this monster on him. And so she's been having dreams. I don't think I've mentioned it in this video so far, but she's been having dreams from like the queen of like the past. She's like a fae queen before all the magic disappeared. And she's been having these dreams. They're not really dreams. They're more like visions, let's say, where the queen comes to her in her dreams and tells her things are bad and things are evil in the castle, and like she's got to do some stuff. And so because of one of these dreams, she ends up going into a separate room, and this creature follows her, and she ends up being able to kill him, but he bites her hand. And so she comes back to her room, and the princess Nemia, I think that's how you say it, I still don't exactly remember how to say her name, stumbles across her and her bleeding hand, and she's quite literally dying. And so the queen the princess takes her into the bathroom and like plunges her hand in water and like says some ritual stuff and fixes her. And then she comes back to, she kind of like comes to the next morning or like an hour later, and the princess is still there, and the princess is like, what's going on here? And so she basically like tells the princess who she actually is, why she's there. And they have this very cute moment where the princess is like, I knew some stuff was going down. I don't like keeping things from you. But she tells her that like Selena Sardathian's her name, and she is still in the mines. And she's like, oh, that's how you know my language, because a lot of people who are in the mines are this princess's people. And she's like, that's how you know the language. Now it makes sense. Oh my gosh, you survived there for a year and you don't look broken. That's insane. And so she has this like immense amount of respect for Selena, and even gives her like a name. She's like, here's a name. I don't remember what it was. And she's like, here's a name for my people, or from my language. And it's basically like her way of saying, I don't care what you're named. This is who you are. She says that her name, she's going to name her Alantia. I give you this name to use in honor, to use when other names grow too heavy. I name you Alantia, spirit that could not be broken. So it's like this very sweet moment between these women. I really like Nemia, and I'm afraid, because it's not a name that I know, I'm afraid that she's not going to be a big part of the story going forward, A. And B, I'm worried that something bad's going to happen. I mean, clearly something bad's going to happen. We still have a relatively big chunk left in the book, and it feels like Selena's kind of figured out what's going on, what this evil is, why the champions are dying. But there's going to be a caveat. There's got to be something else, you know? And the king has been gone this entire book, and now he's back. So, obviously, Selena's going to win this championship, become the king's champion. That's a very clear, obvious thing. I don't think that's up for debate at this point. A, but B, something bad's going to happen. There's going to be a twist. There's going to be something sad that's going to happen, and I don't know what it is, because that's what she does. She likes to do twists and things at the very ends of her books, and I am terrified. And this is only book 1. Oh my gosh. Okay, Knox is safe. She's just kind of convinced him to leave the castle. And he puzzled out who she was. Totally fine. She basically like doesn't feel like hiding it anymore. And so she didn't tell him outright that she was Selena, but she did hint that her identity was fake, and Kane knows, and he just kind of like, it's like, oh, you're from Endovia. Oh, wait, are you from the salt mines? And she's like, yes. He's like, well, I have known you if you like, are you a name that like went into the salt mines? And she's like, yes, everyone knew I went to the salt mines. And so passes out who she is, and she basically says like, stuff's going down. You wouldn't believe me if I told you, but if you're smart, get out. And so he kind of runs away in the middle of the night because he doesn't have a life or death situation like Celaena does. Like if she does not become champion, she goes back to the salt mines and dies. And so he like can't escape this. And so he does. So Knox is safe. I don't know if we'll see him again. I don't know if he'll pop back up, but he is safe, and that makes my heart happy. Okay, I did it. I finished it. I have so many thoughts in my head right now. All good. But the moral of the story is it got 5 stars. I loved it. We got hints to her past with her parents. I have theories and suspicions. I don't have solid facts. I'm curious romance-wise where we're going to go, because she ended things with Dorian at the end of this one, because she can't be the king's champion and also be dating the king, the prince. So is she going to end up with Kale? Also, I've seen the name Rowan, whatever, thrown around. Is that who she ends up with? I don't know, because we don't know who that is. We haven't been introduced to that person yet. There's some stuff. And this queen, who's like an elf queen or whatever, has like dropped some nuggets at the very end with her. She kind of like runs, through sleep, but she talks to Celaena again one last time before the book's over. And says something about blood, like blood ties us all. And so I'm wondering if Celaena has like, I have not been spoiled, but like I know Celaena's not her real name because she has parents. So I'm sure that's the name that Arobin gave her when she joined the Assassin's Guild or whatever. So I know there's probably another name for her out there. And with that name, is she a descendant of this Fae person? Because we already know that she's got blood in her, like Fae blood or magic blood or something, where like she is connected to these magical beings. Is she a descendant? Maybe. And now I need to read the entire thing. I'll come back to you once we've gotten home and I've had time to like process what just happened. But oh, 5 stars. It was so good. Hello, I am here. We're back home, as you can see, and I'm here to finalize my thoughts on Throne of Glass. I don't feel like I have a lot to add to what I was talking about when I came to you. Basically, I came to you as I was reading, so there's not a lot to add as far as like thoughts on the plot, but I'm obsessed with this series. I'm only 1 book in, and I'm in love with the characters. I'm excited to see some of the other named people that I know are going to be in this book. Like, I've seen their names around, but I don't know who they are, and we haven't met them yet. So I'm excited to see kind of like the crew, which is what happened in the 2nd book in the ACOTAR series. We didn't really meet anybody beyond our like main 2 or 3 people, and we didn't meet like the crew until the 2nd book. So I'm sure that we'll meet the crew throughout the next few, since this is a 7-8 book series. So I'm very excited about it. I definitely have already started purchasing the ones I don't own. Basically, I'm invested. I am wholeheartely invested. This is going to be my obsession. I'm probably going to dive into this series over the next couple of months. I'm probably going to finish this series this year, just because I already have all the audiobooks ready to go. I just need to get the physical books because I like to tab and highlight, as you guys know. And I love Celaena as a main character. She is sassy and super cocky, but has the like stuff to back it up, like I've said before. And I just love her. I love her as a person, and she gets herself into issues and is going to cause a lot of problems down the line. I'm just sure of it. But I'm excited to go along the journey and see who she is, learn more about her history, learn more about this world, because it's still like we've just kind of scratched the surface, I'm sure. Like it's the 1st book. We've just scratched the surface on what this series actually is going to be about and what this world is going to be about. So I'm excited to learn more. I'm excited to see some characters come back. I just am invested wholeheartedly in this series, and I don't know, I think I just read this at the right time, which is weird because I was worried I was going to read this at the wrong time because it's YA. Now, as YA as her books can go, it's fantasy without the smutty parts of it quite yet. I know we get smut a little bit later on in the series, but as far as like comparatively, Crescent City and ACOTAR are significantly, from what I've heard, more smutty, and this is more fantasy than romance, whereas the others are more romance and fantasy, and that's what I'm in the mood for right now. Like, I love me a good smutty romance, you guys know this, but I'm just not feeling it right now. So this is, I think, perfect timing for picking this up. So I don't know, I'm obsessed. Let me know if you want to see more spoilery vlogs, if I like maybe read a book of vlog or something, since this vlog got so long. I do apologize, but thank you for making it to the end. But yes, I loved it. The moral of the story is I loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. So this was very successful as far as a reading experiment goes. Let me know what other kind of books you would consider hyped books that you would like to see me talk about, and other editions of, or other episodes of this series. I have some already planned, like I've got some series and books that I want to read for the series, but let me know if there's anything specific you want to see. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this vlog of me diving into the Throne of Glass series for the first time, because I knew I was going to love it, but I didn't realize I was going to love it as much as I did, because it was so good. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know all your fun thoughts down below. But if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. So go check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! This is my new obsession.